Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the series of webinars from Yashoda Hospitals, Department of Emergency Medicine. So, as with every week, we'll be bringing forth all the interesting topics that are relevant to the field of emergency medicine. Today, we have the topic of biodisasters. Are we prepared enough to handle a biodisaster or not? We will be going through that topic. And the speaker for the day is Dr. Kiran Varma. He has done his MBBS, then MD in emergency medicine from WIMS Salem. Then he has done his diploma in emergency medicine. And also he has got a degree in MHA, that is hospital administration. Then fellowship in critical care medicine and also in the management of diabetology. Welcome, Dr. Kiran Varma. He's currently holding the position of head of the department at Yashoda Hospitals Malakpet branch. Welcome, Dr. Kiran.
So thank you, Dr. Naveen sir, for giving the opportunity. So thanks for nice introduction as well. Okay, can I share the screen now?
Yes, please.
Just a minute. So is it visible now? Naveen
Yes.
sir? Is
Yes.
it visible? Yes. So good evening all. So happy to see you all here. So I welcome you all for this webinar on behalf of Yashoda Group of Hospitals. Today topic for discussion is biodisaster. So we might have heard about many disasters. So being emergency physician, being emergency residents, so we might have participated in many mock drills of disasters. But one of the disasters where we have limited knowledge is biodisasters. So we might have had many biodisasters in the past, but so we get rare chance to see the biodisasters. So today we are going to discuss about biodisasters and preparedness regarding to how to deal with biodisasters. So this is the intro about biodisasters. A biodisaster is the deliberate release or outbreak of viruses, bacteria, other germs used to cause illness. Yes. Illness or death in people, animals, or plants. These agents are typically found in the nature, but it is possible that they could be changed to increase their ability to cause disease and make them resistant to the current medications and increase their ability to spread in the environment. The biological agents can be spread through air, water, food. It can be spread through any media. Sometimes terrorists may use biological agents because they can be extremely difficult to detect and do not cause any illness for several hours to days. So that could be one of the reasons why they are using them as a biological weapons. So there are many definitions of biodisasters. I think more than 10 to 15 definitions. This is one of the reasonable definitions where we can remember. So that is like unlawful use or threatened use of microorganisms or toxins derived from the living organs to produce death or disease in humans, animals, or plants. The act is intended, this act means biodisaster or bioterrorism. It is intended to create fear or intimidate governments or societies in pursuit of political, religious, ideological goals. So these are one of the definitions. There are many definitions for the same. So for any biodisaster, there should be biological agents. So what are the key features of biological agents? It should cause high morbidity and mortality and potential for persons to spread one to another. Then low infective dose, then highly infectious by aerosol. That's why if they carry a small amount of the biological agents, it causes widespread of damage. That's why they select these biological agents. Then lack of rapid diagnostic capability, then lack of universally available effective vaccines, then potential to cause anxiety, then availability of pathogens and feasibility of productions. Then moreover, this majority of the biological agents are environmental stable. So they may sustain regard to any kind of climate, maybe hot climate or cold climate. So they might have environmental stability as well. Then database research and development, so potential to be weaponized. These are the key features of biological agents. So for that reason, they are using people are using in different ways. See if there is a biological disaster, what are the effects? It can cause mortality and morbidity, then it disrupt health services, then induces fear in the population, induces fear in, disrupt the society as well, then force or change of government and government policies. So there are different categories of biological disaster, biodisasters and biodisaster agents, like category A, category B, category C. So what are the characteristic features of category A? So one is like easily disseminated. It can spread from one to another easily. Then causes high mortality. Then major public health impact, and it causes public panic and social disruption. It requires special action for public health preparedness. So these are the characteristics of biological agents which comes under category A. Examples are like smallpox, anthrax, plague, botulinum, and tularemia hemorrhagic viruses. Then category B, biodisaster agents, or characteristics like moderate easy to disseminate, and it causes moderate morbidity and low morbidity. So examples are like Coxella burnetii, Brucella, then Epsilon, Staphylococcus, Enterococcus, B and all. Then category C. So this is the era where we are going to face biological weapons, biowars. So those things are falling under category C. So these are the emerging pathogens that could be engineered for mass dissemination, like Nipah, Hanta, tick-borne viruses. There are many diseases like that. Recently, the pandemic, what we have gone through, it's like a COVID. Some people say that it is engineered pathogen. Then some people say it is a natural outbreak. So there are confusion about our COVID-19 pneumonia. Then once there are biological agents, how it will be delivered to the society, to the environment, how they leads to dissemination. So there are many ways of delivering method. There are many delivering methods. One is like it can be spread through food and water, and aircraft sprayers, hand sprayers, then air handling systems, vehicle sprayers, human vectors, then animal vector. So it is easily disseminated from one to another, from man to human, human to human, human to another animals, then non-living things like vehicle sprayers, aircraft sprayers. So this is one of the main reasons behind using of this agents as biowarfare. See if there is a bio disaster. So where are we now? So till now we have prepared for many disasters like train collapse, then earthquakes and floods, all those things. But once you think about biodisasters, where are we now? So maybe in the still question mark. So we don't know where we are, and might not be not prepared. Then another one is like a ill prepared. Some people may be well prepared. So I don't think we are at the stage of ill prepared. Ill prepared means we are prepared partially. It means it is ill prepared. So I don't think we are at the stage of ill prepared. So I strongly believe that we are not at all prepared for bio disasters. So if there is an incident, so what to do? Who is the first responder? For any kind of disasters like train accident or earthquakes, so bystanders are the first responders. But in case of biodisasters, so who would be the first responders? Means physicians, infectious disease specialists, epidemiologists, and hospital and public health administrators, and laboratory experts. Surprisingly, to date, so none of them have been involved in planning, appropriate responsiveness, or in training. So today's topic for discussion is biodisaster and its preparedness. So there is a need to discuss about biodisaster in national and international fora. So that's the reason why you have selected this topic for discussion today. Sorry. So what are the general categories of recommendations for any suspected biodisaster event? One is like reporting requirements and contact information and potential agents, then detection of outbreaks caused by agents of bioterrorism or biodisasters, infection control practice for patient management and exposure, post-exposure management, so laboratory support and confirmation, patient visits and public information. So when it comes to the first one, It's moving. Sorry for this. So there is a problem with the laptop. Sorry for that. If a biodisaster event is suspected or confirmed, local emergency response should be activated. In each healthcare facility should include a list containing the following telephonic notification numbers in its readiness plan. So when you're preparing readiness plan, you should have this kind of information. So contacts of or hospital people like infection control, epidemiologists, and administration, public affairs. Then external contacts like local health department, state health department, intelligence field officers. Then bioterrorism emergency numbers like police and fire. Then what are the potential agents? As I discussed earlier, there are many. So till now we have seen different kinds of biodisasters like anthrax, blood botulism, plague, and smallpox. So these are the 4 diseases that recognize biodisaster potentially as of now today. But there are many other biological potential agents, which are like tularemia, brucellosis, Q fever, viral hemorrhagic fevers, and viral encephalitis, and certain disasters with staphylococcal enterococcus B. So if you see here, there are multiple biological agents like smallpox, anthrax, their incubation period. Then what are the diagnostic samples? For example, if you take smallpox, incubation period is about 7 to 17 days. Then if at all you want to diagnose the sample, what you need to collect is pharyngeal swab. Then what are the diagnostic assay? ELISA, PCR, and virus isolation. So like that, there are many biological agents along with their incubation period. Then what are the samples to be collected? Then what are the modes of diagnostic assays? Then how do you detect outbreaks caused by agents of biodisaster? So biodisaster may occur in two forms. One is covert event, another one is announced. Covert event means people doesn't know that what they have been exposed to. That is kind of covert because they don't know what they have been exposing to. Then when you detect these outbreaks, once they develop symptoms, then only you can detect these outbreaks which are caused by biodisasters. That is kind of coverts because we don't know the things what we have been exposing to. Then second one is like announced. Certain times people will announce that we are going to release anthrax virus here, we are going to release so biological agents here. That is announced. Announced biodisasters are very less. Majority of the biodisasters are like a covert. If it is a covert event, then we don't know. So we don't know what is that biological potential agent, then what it causes and all. Then how to diagnose it, how to detect it. So first one is, it is kind of syndrome-based criteria. So if at all you want to respond, so we need prompt recognition of the disease, onset of the disease. Then only we can respond. So after recognition, after the identification of the onset, then you have to act. Certain times, as I said earlier, if it is a covert event, so we need to diagnose on syndrome-based only. Certain people come with different symptoms and all. So based on that, we can suspect the biological outbreaks. Then sometimes we can detect the outbreaks by epidemiological features. It's like rapidly increasing disease incidence. So rapidly increasing disease incidence in a normal healthy populations. People are hale and healthy from last 1 to 2 days. And suddenly there is increase in incidence of certain diseases. Then an epidemic curve that rises and falls during a short period of time. Then an unusual increase in the number of people with a fever, respiratory and gastrointestinal symptoms. Then endemic, if it is endemic disease, there are many diseases which are endemic in our country like India. So if any endemic disease that rapidly emerging at an uncharacteristic time or unusual pattern. So certain diseases are prevalent or endemic during a cold climate. If such kind of disease, if you see such kind of disease incidents in the summer season, then you have to suspect some biological event has happened. Then lower attack rates among people, those are indoor when compared to outdoor. If indoor people, they didn't expose to any of the disease, any of the agents. But outdoor people, since they are roaming outside, they might got exposed to the certain biological potential agents. So they're likely to develop certain features. Then cluster of patients from a single locality. So single locality, yes, there are fever, cough, SOB, yes. Then you need to suspect biological outbreaks and all. Then any patient presenting with a disease that is relatively uncommon and has a biodisaster potentiality. So there are many diseases in India, but suddenly if you see uncommon disease, which is prevalent at certain places, at certain like a clusters of disease, then you have to suspect biodisaster. Sorry. There is a problem with the laptop. Sorry. Then infection and management. Suspect a case of infection, then how do you manage all those things? First, you need to have isolation precautions. So if it is a small scale, if people are affected in a smaller scale, then we don't need to have separate facilities and all. But if it is a larger scale, yes, we need to have isolation protocols and all. So how do you isolate the patient? So there are many things like a standard precautions. So why do we need to practice the standard precautions? To prevent this transmission of disease from one patient to another. So how do you practice standard precautions? Like wearing protective gears, wearing mask, gloves, then all those things. Then face shield, eye shield, all those things. Okay. Then when you are preparing a readiness plan, so you should include all those things. You should incorporate all these things in our plan. Then patient placement. So as I told you, if it is a small scale involvement, you don't need to have separate things. If there is a large scale involvement, yes, you need to have proper protocols. So if it is small scale, you can triage the patient, then you can isolate the patient. If it is a large scale, you can't even triage and isolate each and every patient, since it is a large scale. So in during that time, so you have to adopt alternative technology, alternative methods like cohorting the patients. So cohorting the patients with particular symptoms. Example, patients with abdominal pain, vomiting, loose stools. This is one cohort. Yes, you have to place in different place. Then another example like fever, cough, cold, and breathing difficulty. This is a different cohort. So like that, you have to categorize the patient. Then you have to keep the patient at different places. So that is about patient placement. Then patient transport. Usually when there is a suspected confirmed biological event, better not to transfer our patient to one place to another patient unless it is required. Example, that patient requires CT scan. Then only you mobilize the patient from one place to another patient. Otherwise, you don't need to transport for small things and that. It's because if you transfer the patient from one patient to another one place to another place, chance of spreading of the disease is very high. Chance of dissemination is very high. So better not to transport the patient for unnecessary reasons. Then another one is like then cleaning, disinfection, sterilization of equipment environment. So I think we might have practiced during our COVID pandemics. So whenever patient comes to ER, our patient got admitted and disposed from ER, then we need to sanitize the place where the patient has been gone through, like linen, then beds, bed railings, the instruments what you have used for COVID patients. So like that, we have to practice the cleaning and disinfection protocols. So this cleaning protocol, disinfection protocol should be planned when you are preparing for readiness. Then germicidal, what are the germicidals you are going to use? Then how you are going to manage all those things should be planned in hand. Then discharge management. So discharge, ideally, if there is suspected or confirmed biological disaster, you should not discharge any patient unless they are deemed to be non-contagious. But if it is a large scale involvement, so we are unable to admit all the patients. In such scenarios, we have to discharge certain patients with home care instructions. So same thing we have done for our COVID patients. If it is a mild case of COVID-19, then we advise them to go home. So we'll give certain instructions like how to maintain a hand wash technique, then waste management, then environmental cleaning. Then when they report, when they have to come return to the hospitals, so all the instructions, the home care instructions, we have to discharge the patient. But again, I'm telling you, if it is a biodisaster event, ideally we should not discharge the patient until they're deemed to be non-contagious. So that is one thing. Then post-mortem care. So you have to do post-mortem care with full precautions, with all standard precautions. We have to wear all the protective gates and all. Then only have to perform the post-mortem care. Yes, you have done the post-mortem. Then you have to send samples for the investigations like liver, kidney, or lung for the next for the further examinations. So before you are sending them for the examination or for pathology or lab investigations, you should inform pathologists and laboratory services prior. Otherwise, they'll get exposed. They'll get exposed to the biological agents. Then, so how do you manage the post-exposure management? First, decontamination of patient and environment, prophylaxis and post-prophylaxis immunization, triage and management of large-scale exposures and suspected exposures, psychological aspects of bioterrorism, then laboratory supports and confirmation, patient visit and public information. So regarding decontamination of the patient and environment. So decontamination, we don't follow decontamination techniques aggressively for small scale involvement. If it is a large scale, yes, we have to practice. Then moreover, if contamination is very minimal, then please better not to follow the decontamination techniques. Then where you need to follow the decontamination practices, when there is a gross contamination, then only you can follow the decontamination techniques. So then another one is like, so what we have seen our COVID times, people have to take, a bleach bath, then they have to go through some bleach tunnels and all. So better not to do all those things because it causes more harm for the patients. So just keep in the brain that when there is a gross contamination, then only you can go for the decontamination of patients. Then environment, yes. So you have to practice decontamination of the environment, as I said earlier. Then prophylaxis and post-exposure immunization. So there are many biological potential biological agents like anthrax, brucella, cholera, all those things. Then prophylaxis like ciprofloxacin, doxycyclines for inhalation anthrax. Then botulinum like trivalent antitoxins, brucella, doxycycline, rifampicin. Then cholera, tetracyclines, doxycycline, ciprofloxacin. Then for certain agents we have vaccines, for certain agents we don't have vaccine. If there is a large scale involvement, then so what to do? So first you need to establish network of communication and lines of authority to coordinate on-site care. So then how do you establish networks of communication? So you should be there in the readiness plan. Whom should we contact? Then from whom we will get the help when there is a biodisaster event. Then you have to coordinate with the authorities so that we can get a lot of help on-site. Then planning of cancellation of non-emergency services and procedures. See, if there is a large scale involvement, so we will not see all the cases which are coming to the hospitals. If it is a non-emergency, we'll cancel it, we'll postpone it because this event is we are giving priority to this event. Then identifying the sources able to supply available vaccines, immunoglobulins, antibiotics, and botulinum antitoxins. Then planning for the efficient evaluation and discharge of the patients. Yes, there is a large crowd, those who got involved into this bio disaster. Then you should have proper and rapid evaluation and discharging of the patients. Otherwise, our healthcare services will be compromised. So our healthcare system will get collapsed. Then another like developing discharge instruction for the patients determined to be non-contagious or in need of additional on-site care, including details of regarding when they should return for care. Yes, we are sending the patients home with home care, with some instructions at home. Then when patient discharged to home, we should give clear-cut instructions when they should return to hospitals. Like if patient is worsening the symptoms, like continuous cough, SOB, then hypotension, giddiness, all those things, you have to give the instruction. So these are called alarming symptoms. So when there are alarming symptoms, they have to return to hospital setup again. Then you need to determine availability and sources for additional medical equipment and supplies like ventilators. So any hospital, if you take any tertiary care, quaternary care hospitals, they have limited ventilators, probably 10 to 20 like that. If surge is very high, so we need to meet those demands of the surge. In that cases, we have to identify the sources who supplies these ventilators when there is a surge. Then medical supplies like drugs, even example in our COVID times, there is a scarcity for even for a small mass. So when you have large scale involvement, so you need to have alternate people, those who supplies all additional equipments and other medical supplies as well. Then planning for allocation or reallocation of scarce equipments in the event of large scale. So like one patient is on BiPAP, then allocation, relocation. Certain people may not require BiPAP, certain people may not require ventilation on arrival. So there will be allocation, reallocation of the scarce equipments based on the severity of the disease. Then with assistance from the pathology services, you have to identify the institutions able to manage sudden increase in number of the cadavers on site, because we need to send for pathological examination and other investigations. Most important aspect is psychological aspect of bioterrorism. So psychologically, it is very difficult to handle the psychological aspect of general public, because they have a lot of confusions, anxiety, agony, all those things. Then how do you minimize this general fear and agony and confusions and all? So only thing is you should give proper information through multiple channels. So when you're preparing for readiness plan, you should include all those things. So what are the things to convey when there is a bio disasters, so that it will minimize the agony or public fear and all. Certain people, whatever you tell, so they continue to have certain kind of anxiety, panic attacks and all. So first, what you need to do is first reassure the patient, because they didn't get exposed. If they get exposed, that is different. Some people will be panic without their being exposed. So very difficult to treat the people, those who didn't get exposed and coming with panic attacks. So for such cases, first reassure the patient that nothing will happen because they didn't get exposed. Despite your reassurance, still they continue to have panic attacks. Treat with diazepams, like anxiolytics, like diazepam and all. Then healthcare workers. So they also will be in panic mode first. Then how to avoid all this, how to avoid these things. Then when you are preparing for readiness plan, preparing for when you are doing mock drills and when you are doing disaster drills and all, you should involve all the healthcare workers and you should explain about the possible risks and benefits of all these things. Then invite active and voluntary people in readiness plan and all. Then encourage participation in drills. So people, our healthcare people, especially emergency fraternity people, they should participate in the disaster drills. So it's like bio disasters, whatever it is, you have to involve actively. Then some people, despite all those things, they might have participated in multiple disasters, they might have participated in discussions, then readiness plans and all. Despite above all those things, some people will be having that anxiety. Then what to do? If they don't want to be in the on-site, they don't want to be a front end, ask them to be in the back end, so that they will help you at multiple levels. Then how do you manage the laboratory support and confirmations? See, once there is a suspected bio disaster event, So we need to have laboratory support for confirmations. Then we need to get the samples. How do you get the samples? What are the samples you have to get? So as I told you earlier, some people, if there are some disaster, some biological disasters like brucella, anthraxis, we need to get the swab, nasal swab. Then for certain things like we need to collect the blood samples. So there are different things. Then how do you obtain a sample? Why we should obtain the diagnostic samples? So we have to obtain the samples during acute phase. It should be analyzed, liquidated, and should be stored because we have to compare with the covalent serums. So for that reason, we have to collect the acute phase serum samples and acute phase the samples. It might be a nasal swab, all those things. Then once you collect the sample, you have to send it for the lab for the confirmations. Then where to send? Level A centers, level B centers, level C centers, level D centers. So based on their capability, lab capabilities, it's been categorized into level A, B, C, and D. If it is a level A center, they have minimal identification. They have capability to identify the agents at certain levels. So they will not identify, they will not confirm the other things. If it is a level B, it is a country, level B centers, like country and state and the other laboratories, they will identify, they will confirm, they will do susceptibility testing as well. If it is a level C laboratory, it might be at state and other large facility laboratories with advanced capacity for testing. They do molecular technology as well. If it is a level D, so they follow biosafety levels, BSL 3, BSL 4 lab, biosafety levels 3 and 4 labs with a special surge capacity and advanced molecular typing techniques. So whatever the surge, maybe 100,000. So they are ready to operate. They are ready to perform the test. So these are the categories of laboratories based on their capability. Then what information should be given to the patient? So there should be clear, consistent, understand information should be provided to patients, visitors, and the general public. Then during biodisaster-related outbreaks, visitors may be strictly limited. Then to minimize the anticipated response of fear, confusion, anger, healthcare facilities should plan in advance the methods of channels of communication to be used to inform the public. Failure to provide a public forum for information exchange may increase the anxiety and misunderstanding. So when there is a biodisaster event, you should explain and you should give the proper information to the public so that we can minimize fear, confusion, then all those things. So what is the role of emergency department when there is a biodisaster? So we are the frontliners. So whatever disaster may be, it may be biodisaster, it may be earthquake, whatever. We are the people in the front line to receive the cases. So being at emergency departments, we have our roles, especially in biodisasters. Like you have to maintain clear pathways and also you have to maintain proper communication systems with the health system, local and state and other people, other departments like public health affairs and all. Then we have to conduct regular meetings at regular intervals to share information regarding readiness planning and responsiveness. Then preparedness, what are the things you have prepared? Preparedness to be checked repeatedly and to be reviewed regularly. Then you have to conduct multiple training programs. Then biosurveillance system to be developed. So unfortunately, biosurveillance systems are not available in India so far. If it is there, it is available only with the army people and the high-end security people. It is not available to civilians. Then redirect the resources. Yes, when there is a biodisaster event, so you have to redirect the resources. Yes, if people are required, you have to deploy. If people are not required, you have to withdraw services. Then if highly qualified people, then you have to use at different levels. So you have to redirect the resources. If ventilators are required, you have to redirect. If SAM in laboratories are required, you have to redirect the resources. So these are the roles of emergency when there is a biodisaster event. Then what are the future strategies to combat or to fight against biodisasters? One is like we need a greater capacity for surveillance at national, state, and local levels. Then for a better network of laboratories and diagnostic instruments. So till now, we have very limited laboratories where they detect bioagents. Then more adequately trained epidemiologists, clinicians, and researchers. Biosensor technology needs to be made available to both armed forces and civilians. As I told you earlier, biosensor technology. Unfortunately, we don't have access to those things. So it is better to develop the biosensor technology so that we can identify the bioagents and biodisasters at the earliest. Then another one is like biologically integrated systems, which collects the air and measures the size of aerosol particles and detects biological activity by the presence of flow cytometry. And they do antibody-based tests that can detect anthrax, plague, and botulinum toxins. So it is biological integrated system. So this is one of the best system which we need to practice, which we need to make available at our centers. So probably I think it takes some more time to get this kind of integrated systems in India and the centers where we are working. Then researchers are investigating more innovative ways to safeguard against biological weapons, including protective gears and breathing apparatus, decontaminants, and antidotes. So this is the area where we also can focus. So we can do extensive research and elaborate research on certain biological agents. So because we have very limited knowledge about these bioagents. So I request the people, those are listening to it, that those are participating in this webinar, to do more research on these agents. Then we need to shape policies against the nefarious use of biological agents while safeguarding legitimate research. So since it is available at different centers like bioagents, certain times they are engineered. Certain drugs, certain agents are like COVID pneumonia and anthrax, certain things. They are engineered to make them as biowarfares. That's why we should have strict policies against using the nefarious use of biological agents. You should not go into the hands of antisocial elements. At the same time, we should promote legitimate research so that we can prevent this kind of disasters. If there is a biological disaster happens, then we can improve the vaccine. We can develop the vaccines. Or if we are not going to develop vaccines, at least we can develop tests, diagnosing tests. So for that reason, so we have to do safeguarding legitimate research as well. So this is all about biodisasters. So these are all my references, like in Journal on Bioterrorism, Center for Disease Control, Asking Government for Health and Age Care, then Emergency Preparedness. Then these are the references. So thank you. If any questions are there, so most welcome. So. Naveen sir, any questions?
Yeah, as of now, no one has posted any questions. We'll just give them some time.
Yes, sir. So any inputs from your end, Naveen sir?
Yeah, this topic is very tricky one. No matter how much you are prepared theoretically, unless you actually face a disaster, you won't be sure how well your systems are functioning. For that to be done, you will have to go through multiple mock disasters. So unless you do a yearly ones, as per even NABH standards, you will have to go through NABH, disaster mock drills every year. So with that only, you will be a little prepared. But again, unless a real disaster strikes, you cannot be sure how well you are prepared.
Yeah, true, sir. We have very limited knowledge on biodisasters, in fact. So might have had anthrax, which have occurred in the past, botulism, all those things.
But handling medical emergencies is difficult, and more than that, you will have to handle the PR, the media,
public
attendance, and all that has a higher toll on the hospital resources.
Yes, yes, sir.
Before we take up the questions, let me announce the next week's topic. That is hemodynamic monitoring by Dr. Muralidhar Kanchi. He is an anesthesia specialist at Narayana Institute of Cardiac Sciences, Bangalore. And you can be notified about our future webinars on this Telegram channel. Just go to telegram.me/med_meet, where we announce every week topics. You can get subscribed to that channel and get notified about the future sessions. And in QA, there is one question. So good evening, sir. Dr. Aparajita here. Do you think, sir, we can have any preparedness toolkit for the biodisaster for urban and rural settings?
Oh, that's what we are discussing. So good evening, Dr. Aparajita. So as of now, we don't have any kits for the biodisaster. So forget about the rural settings. So even in the urban, tertiary care, quaternary care, so we don't have any toolkits. So that's what I'm telling you. So we need to do more and more research on biological agents, so that we can develop our own kits, so that we can fight against these kind of biodisasters. So as of now, with my little knowledge, I don't have any idea. So if you have any, please share with us. That's why, especially in disasters, so management of public, then patient and patient attenders, then media. So it is a cumbersome procedure. So moreover, it needs a lot of tactics. Then we need to have a lot of coordination among ourselves, includes physicians, administrations, local police. Then we need to have a lot of support. Otherwise, it is very difficult for us to manage. Being a doctor, being a physician, will be focusing more on the patient care. So someone should be there to take care of all these things. So moreover, especially, I forgot to tell you one thing here. So when you're dealing with the disasters, two things are paramount. One is strong leadership. Second one is effective communication. These two things are paramount. So if you don't have strong leadership, then so we do nothing. Whatever you do, it will not be fruitful. At the same time, effective communications. So whatever the information you are giving to the public and social media and other medias, it makes a lot of difference. If you give false information, it leads to chaotic situations. So these two things, strong leadership, another one is effective communications, are paramount when you are dealing with any disaster. It includes biodisaster as well.
Yeah,
So
most of the times your medical teams will be ready somehow. You can get more manpower and all. But the planning part of non-medical people, your administration, those things will take a lot of time because they are not aware of all these things. And unless you mobilize them on time and give them their action cards, what are they supposed to do and all, you will not be able to handle an emergency like a disaster properly.
Yeah, true, sir.
Okay, if we don't have any questions, there's one more question. Thank you.
Okay.
It's not a question. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Dr. Srinath sir and Dr. Naveen sir, for giving me this opportunity. And I thank Society for Emergency Medicine India, then NY, so for promoting health awareness, especially on emergency-related topics. So I thank Corandal. Thanks for it.
Thanks for joining, everyone.